What if I told you that peace is not your natural state? That for humanity, peace is not the default setting. It is a fragile, temporary truce. A tense ceasefire we are forced to negotiate again and again with the monster inside of us. You watch the news, you scroll through your feed, you see the endless, grinding cycle of conflict, the raw human suffering, and you are fed a diet of comfortable, convenient lies. You are told it's about politics, about resources, about ideology, about bringing freedom to the oppressed. But a part of you, a deep and honest part that society tries to silence, knows that is not the whole truth. It feels more ancient, more primal, more terrifyingly insane than that. The frustration you feel is the dissonance between the world's shallow explanation and your soul's deep recognition of a darker, unchangeable pattern. Today, we are not going to talk about geopolitics. You're going to talk about the ghost in your blood. I am going to reveal the ancient biological programming that makes war not just a possibility, but a recurring, almost inevitable feature of the human experience. This is a truth so uncomfortable that society has constructed entire mythologies of progress, of enlightenment, of inherent goodness, to hide it from you and from itself. By the end of this video, you will no longer see conflict as something that happens out there, an unfortunate accident of history. You will understand the seed of it that lies dormant, waiting inside every human mind, including your own. The first secret you must internalize is that your brain is not designed for universal love. It is designed, with brutal efficiency, for a clan. This is the foundation of our first pillar, the tribal circuit. Why us needs a them. Forget the nursery rhyme that we can all just hold hands and get along if we simply try hard enough. That is a dangerous fantasy peddled to children. The brutal truth of our evolutionary psychology is that our sense of us, our intoxicating feeling of belonging and purpose, is sharpest and most powerful when we have a them to oppose. This isn't a design flaw. It was a critical survival feature. The same instinct that makes you fiercely loyal to your family, your team, or your country is the exact same program that can be weaponized for devastating conflict. Your brain is bathed in chemicals like oxytocin not to make you love everyone, but to make you bond intensely with your in-group, a bond that is almost always defined by its opposition to an out-group. Consider the classic and chilling robber's cave experiment. Psychologists took a group of ordinary American boys with no history of conflict and divided them into two teams. They gave them names, the Eagles and the Rattlers flags, and a series of simple competitions. Within mere days, these normal children had transformed into warring tribes. They developed their own internal hierarchies, their own slang, and a burning hatred for the other side. They raided each other's cabins, they burned each other's flags, they engaged in physical violence. They needed no ancient grudge, they needed no political cause. All they needed was a line drawn in the sand. All they needed was an us and a them. This tribal circuit is the bedrock of war. The first myth it utterly destroys is the simplistic idea that conflict is only caused by a few evil leaders. Leaders do not create this impulse. They are simply masters at identifying and activating the tribal programming that already exists in all of us, waiting for a target. This leads us to the second, more cynical secret. We almost never go to war for the reasons we claim. This is our second pillar. The logic of the armed primate. We are told that war is a rational decision, a calculated political move, a failure of diplomacy. This is a profound misreading of human nature. It assumes we are logical actors. We are not. Your mind is a house occupied by two residents, a modern, logical human and a primal, armed primate. For most of your life, in times of safety and comfort, the human is in charge. But when a deep, instinctual threat is perceived, real or imagined, the primate takes control. The role of the logical human at that point is not to question the primate. Its role is to become its lawyer. Its job is to write a noble speech, to craft a compelling narrative full of words like freedom, justice, and security, to justify the violence that the primate has already decided upon. Reason does not lead us to war. Reason is the mask that our primal aggression wears to make itself acceptable in the civilized world. It is post hoc rationalization. It is the ultimate act of internal manipulation, the self-deception that precedes all organized destruction. This demolishes the convenient myth that education and information are the antidote to war. Information is just ammunition for the primate's lawyer. Look at the scenes in the great capitals of Europe in August of 1914. The streets of Berlin, of Paris, of Vienna were not filled with people logically debating the nuances of treaty obligations. They were filled with a fever of raw emotion. Students, merchants, and workers, swept up in a tide of ecstatic nationalism, singing patriotic songs, and celebrating the coming of a war they believed would be a glorious, cleansing adventure. This was not a failure of logic, it was a triumph of the limbic system. It was the will to power that the philosopher Nietzsche identified, a primal urge for struggle and dominance that hijacked an entire continent's rational faculties. And now we come to the third and most terrible secret. For the ghost in your blood to be fully unleashed, for the armed primate to do its worst. One final, horrific switch must be flipped inside the human mind. Empathy must be turned off. This is our final pillar, the architecture of hate. This is where we move beyond instinct and into the realm of deliberate psychological programming. The myth is that you, a good person, would never participate in atrocities. The truth is, any human mind can be conditioned to. This is achieved through the systematic process of dehumanization. It is an architecture of pure poison, a technology of the soul, designed to strip the other of their humanity in your eyes, turning them from a person into an object, a concept, a monster, a pest. It is the psychological mechanism that makes killing not just possible, but righteous. In the Rwandan genocide, propaganda radio did not just encourage violence, it relentlessly, systematically referred to the Tutsi people as inyenzi, cockroaches. Meditate on that word for a moment. You do not negotiate with a cockroach. You do not empathize with a cockroach. Do not see its family or hear its prayers. You exterminate it to protect your own safety. That one word, repeated thousands of times, was the kill switch for empathy for an entire population, turning neighbors into murderers. And that is how the darkness of the human psyche, what Carl Jung would call the collective shadow, is unleashed, hidden behind a single word or image. Dragging ideas like this into the light is the only way to weaken them. If this content is provoking you, use the share button as a weapon. Send it to someone who needs to question what they believe, and like it to amplify this message. This weaponization of language is not just a relic of history. It is happening right now, on your screens, in your news feeds, in the rhetoric of movements and nations. The modern myth that technology and globalization have made us more civilized is perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all. The technology changes, but the ghost in the blood remains. The spear becomes a drone. The war cry becomes a viral post. The tribe is no longer just the village. It is a global online ideology, an anonymous army united by hate. The tools are more sophisticated, but the programming they exploit is exactly the same. So, where does this leave us? Is humanity doomed to this bloody, repeating cycle forever? The purpose of this knowledge is not despair. It is power. It is freedom. You cannot remove the ghost from your blood, but by seeing the program, you gain the ability to choose not to run it. By understanding these three pillars, the tribal circuit that demands an enemy, the armed primate that wears the mask of reason, and the architecture of hate that gives us permission to destroy, you are no longer a passive victim of your own programming. You are given a shield against manipulation. You can feel the pull of tribalism and question it. You can recognize the voice of the primate and refuse to let your reason become its slave. You can detect the language of dehumanization and reject it in others, and most importantly, in yourself. This is not about changing the world. It is about achieving self-mastery over the most ancient and dangerous parts of yourself. It is about winning the only war that truly matters. The one inside, the ghost will always whisper. The only question is, who is the master? This is Philoverse. Tame the ghost within.